Yeah, hello! What's good, everybody? It's your boy Romanpuss here with the Light Defender Awakened Giraffe Boy Kaku unit. This is your overall guide, his tips and tricks, and everything you need to know about him. He is a fantastic unit, but he does have his weaknesses. So I'm going to go over everything you need to know about him. If you have not gone over his traits and his skills, please take a quick look over them. This is fast, so if you need to pause the video, go ahead and do so. But without further ado, I hope that you find those useful and you get everything you need from that. And we're about to dive in and hop right into it. Okay, first thing that I always go over is the stat recommendations. How should you build your stats on your medals? If you don't know how to build the stats on your medals, be sure to check out my medal guide. It is on the guide playlist, so you can check that out there. But otherwise, for Kaku himself, you're going to want to build full HP and full defense. All of his stuff, he has a lot of traits that are geared towards increasing his damage, and his attack stat is really low as it is as well, so you just want to pound that HP, pound that defense, and just kind of max that out. I would go 70% HP, 70% defense. Those are the caps for those of you that don't know, so don't bother going beyond those caps when you're building your metal traits. And then you can probably fit another flat, either 160 defense or go that 500 HP or whatever. Either one works, honestly. I prefer like the defense, but it's up to you and however you choose to build your characters. Okay, let's talk about little tips and tricks real quick. Like, he does have a fairly simple kit, so there's really not too much to go over. You have your skill 1. Make sure you're being careful with that and not giving the enemy free perfect dodges. It is very easy to do so. Your skill 1 generally can hit about 3 times if people are just running straight at you. You'll hit them once, they'll get knocked down, they'll try to jump in, which will perfect dodge, which is okay depending on who it is, as long as it's not a Rayleigh, the main person you need to be careful of, or an Albert. And then you'll be able to hit them on the 3rd time. So it does hit an awful lot, so you'll be able to do pretty good damage with it. And remember, if someone hits you really hard when you use your skill 1, you can use it defensively because you'll reflect the damage back at them. So you can always do that as well. So make sure you utilize that skill 1 to the best of its ability. Next, you need to pay attention to your treasure fill meter. So how charged is your treasure gauge that you're standing on? You cannot charge it when people are standing on it. So you have the 80% threshold, and then you have the 100 and whatever some change threshold that you need to be careful of, because those are what affects how you're going to be fighting, especially if you're fighting someone like the Dark Runner Roger. This is going to impact how you're playing and whether you can actually attack him while he's on your flag or not. So keep in mind and be wary of things like that when you're playing through the game. And on top of that, just stay on your flag the best you can. You are a defender. You're a main defender, not like something that can go offensive. Like Gear 5. Gear 5 can push and stuff, but Kaku needs to stay on his treasure, and that's where he is best at. So sometimes you have to be pushing forward. I get that, but you're very vulnerable when you're off of your flag. So keep in mind out for that when you're playing Kaku. Okay, next let's talk about his pros. Honestly, he ignores defense on his skill 2, the giraffe form, which is fantastic. I absolutely love that, and it goes a long ways, especially since he doesn't build any attack. This will allow him to counter the people who have defense stats, plus you have the damage increase on your skills, which does even more damage, so you can counter kind of both damage reduction and defense all in one with that skill 2. On top of that, you're pretty tanky. You have the 80% damage reduction when your flag is charged enough. You have 30% while you're just on the flag as a whole. And then if you build and top it off with some medals, you can hit that 100% damage reduction, which can go a really long way. Next, you're immune to immobilizing status effects. This is huge and allows you to not die when you're fighting people who can lock you down. So that includes Sing, Tremor, Candify, Freeze, Shock, Stun. Any of those will not work on you when your flag is charged enough. On top of that, you charge the flag really quickly. I love this trait, and it makes it so you don't have to sit there as a defender standing on the flag for the first 30 seconds of every game. It is a lifesaver. I truly do enjoy that trait. You also charge the flags to 150%, which makes it a lot more difficult for runners to come up and just be taking the flags, and they can't take it as quickly. So you'd be surprised how much it slows them down, even when they're just taking it for free. It actually does do a lot of work that you may not be seeing directly. And on top of that, as I said earlier, kind of you have the boosted skill damage. You have that 50% damage increase on your flag or your skills, which allows you to do much more damage, even when you're not building attack. So it helps out a lot, and you may not realize it, but trust me, it does. All right, let's talk about some cons. Basically, people who can't be knocked back will kind of destroy you, because your knockbacks is how you heal, and when you can't heal, it hurts you a lot. So just keep an eye out for that. That's something to be wary of. There are specific attackers that do not get knocked back as long as they're on the flag. So sometimes it requires you to step off of your flag depending on who you are fighting. And on top of that, people can perfect dodge your skill 1 relatively easily. Make sure you're not giving the wrong people perfect dodges for free. It's something to be careful of because that can turn the fight and it can actually screw over your teammates, even if it doesn't screw over you. So be very careful with that. It can be very frustrating to be playing with that when that's happening. On top of that, you're also kind of locked into kind of staying on your flag when you're Kaku, especially when you're just sitting there holding your skill 1 spinning in circles for however long, 10 seconds, I don't know, it just seems like forever. So just be wary of that. Maybe make sure you're on the right flag. Usually the center flag is the go-to. Hopefully you have some teammates backing you up if you're getting a little bit overwhelmed, and they can help you when needed. The last kind of con is that you really don't have a pushing ability. You have your skill 2 ignores defense, but really you're meant to stay on your flag. So if you have a team that has no runners or has no attackers and can't really push, and you're kind of stuck with 1 or 2 flags, then you're kind of screwed. So that can kind of hurt him a lot. Okay, let's dive into the characters you are strong against. Who do you destroy, and who can you absolutely just hold your flag against? So there are a few, but there are a few that can absolutely counter you as well. So people like Yamace, people like Albert, Charlotte Biscuit Boy, Egghead Zoro, Oni Zoro, and the Straw Hats in general, you do really, really well against because you have a lot of traits that are oriented towards them. Just make sure with Albert you're not giving him perfect dodges and you can destroy him pretty easily. So those are some characters that you really counter and can hold your flag and hold your own against fairly well, as long as you are on your flag, because you are a defender, obviously. Moving into the Kaku counters and who destroys him, I have kind of established that Rob Lucci does destroy him as long as Lucci's in his attacker mode and is really fighting you. He can't be that knockback. It's really painful to deal with when he's in attacker mode and just wailing on you. And then on top of that, Roger can destroy you. I was gonna, I know you're kind of supposed to be oriented towards countering Roger, but if the Roger plays it right, he can absolutely destroy you. So just be careful of that. Homeboy can be very annoying. He just has to sit there and chunk you for that 50% skill, which is extremely low skill cooldown, and it's a pain in the booty, I ain't gonna lie. So watch out for Roger. Make sure, as long as you dodge 1 of his 2 skills, you'll generally be okay. But something to be wary of, and if you just keep spinning and can heal back up, that will work in your favor. But if he's a smart Roger, he can destroy you. And lastly, kind of the main one, there's a few more. You have like Jabra as well, but this one is Film Red Shanks. He just cuts your HP bar. He does ignore damage reduction. You can stall him for a bit, but depending on how he plays it, if he just plays like a rat, he will just sit there and keep withering you down and cutting you down over and over and over again, which can be very frustrating. And I kind of mentioned it just a few seconds earlier, is Jabra. Watch out for that. He has this shield. You don't really have reliable ways to break his shield and do damage to him, so just be careful, because your skill 2 is like the only thing you have against something like a Jabra. So still need a teammate to break his shield, and if you can get your skill 2 on him, it'll be good, but if you can't get your skill 2 on his actual health bar, it'll be dangerous. So watch out for that wolf boy. Now let's talk about some medal recommendations. Obviously, we're going to start off, we have the Great All-Around Kaido set. This provides you a lot of skill 1 cooldown, provides you some good damage reduction, and gives you an extra 5% damage increase as well. So you can put in some work for you when you're playing and hiding on your flag. Gives you that extra 10% damage reduction, I believe, so that puts you at 90% damage reduction overall. If you're fighting light units and you have Grand Line, or if you have Zoan, that can help as well. So really good set all around. Next, you have your damage reduction set. The Enel set comes with an extra 20% damage reduction, which is big, especially if you're down in flags. This can put you at 100% damage reduction, which will make it so you can take single digit numbers. So just keep that in mind. That can go a long ways as well, which is really, really big. Just watch out for attackers who have a lot of damage increase, because then they'll start really cutting you down. And then this last one, because if you have Kaku, there's potentially a chance you have the EX Rob Lucci, but if you don't, then you at least have the Kaku. So you could mix and match that Kaku set with any of these other Cypher Pole units. It is just Cypher Pole, luckily, and they didn't split it up between Cypher Pole 9 and Cypher Pole 0. So you can mix and match those. Obviously, matching the zones together will provide some of the most, the better synergies, but you can mix and match, so you have the Stussy, you have Spandam, those old event medals, if you have those as well. Whatever you feel like throwing in, you can choose whatever traits fit the best. I do really like kind of that CP0 Kaku, CP0 Lucci, and Jabra medals. Those are nice and fun. They are kind of attacker oriented, but if you can switch around which ones, they can help you out and become beneficial for you. So those are just for those of you who don't necessarily have a lot of resources to work with, but I definitely think the Enel set's probably his best set, because you want that extra damage reduction. But all right, you guys, that is my Kaku guide overall. I hope you guys found this useful. Hopefully you got something out of it and you learned something. But that is all I have for you guys. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe. I would truly appreciate it and it helped me. So I hope you enjoyed. Hit the like button. That's all I have for you guys. I'm your boy Romanpuss and I'll be taking off. Yeah, holy! Peace, beautiful people.